Crossing the Great River. I wanted to put a couple of books up again because in my last video, people were not able to see Stars, Stones, and Scholars. This is 2003, and the author uses the chambers and the standing stones to explain the same story that I have been explaining in all of my recent videos around Andromeda, Cassiopeia and Cepheus, Perseus, and then crossing the Great River into the Orion part of the galaxy. This is in every single standing stone of this book. It's the cup marks, the stars, the Hermetic principle, and he starts with Clava Cairn, which I have been to. So the Clava Cairn is in Scotland, and you can see that when you stand in the middle, here's Cepheus, the stone, Peter, the stone, Simon Peter, Peter Pan, the stone on which the church was built, Cepheus. It's just astounding to me. Here's the winter solstice, here's the vernal equinox. So all of this and everything that I've told you about the history of where we came from. Here's Cepheus. I'm trying to read this upside down and backwards right now. All of the Neolithic sites in Scotland tell the same story. And they also tell it in New England. And they also tell it in Miami, Florida. So every single one of these stories is on the rocks, in the stones, that tell the same stories of crossing this great river. The great river is called Eridanus. Okay, so here's the Neolithic sites. And the great river, Eridanus, is actually the same as Hadrian's Wall. It's astounding. So as above, so below. Here we are. Andromeda, right here, being captured by Perseus. And the interesting thing is this man, just like me, knows that all of this archaeogenetic studies of these places and their land masses. So here is the whole same story with Clava. And I've been to Inverness. I actually stayed there in the Moray Firth. And when I was walking along the River Ness, I dropped my phone. And at the time I had a star map app. It was during the middle of the day. And I picked up my phone, and my phone showed the star map for the sky of the Great River right above us on the River Ness. And then down here is Eridanus, which is also Hadrian's Wall. And so the whole story of this, and who were the Scots, and who were the Pictish, and who were the Welsh, and so forth. And here's the Clava Cairns, the exact alignment. Draco's in the middle. Okay, so Draco is this crossing of the great river and taking Andromeda. And also what's interesting is we have Lyra and Vega and Pegasus and Polaris, Ursa Minor, Arcturus. All of it is in these little. So when I went to Clava Cairn, I was trying to decipher, what are these fixed stars? Okay, what does this mean? All over the planet is our history. All over the planet of us being severed from Andromeda, taken through Cassiopeia, Cepheus, brought through to the Orion arm, crossing the great river, which is Eridanus. And if you need to study all of that, you might want to get a little guide. This one is just a little quick field guide that I can put in my pocket, like not my big hardcover book about the fixed stars, but this one is a little quick guide, and it's from the Field Guide to Astronomy. So you can see every section of the story and the month. Here's December and what the sky looks like in December. Here's September and what the night sky looks like in September, facing north, facing south. Here's what it looks like in June. Okay, so that you can start to read the stars. But this book, Stars, Stones, and Scholars, has every bit of the information of how we got here and how we crossed the Great River. And here's, again, Cepheus, Draco. Okay, so it was the Draconians that brought us from Andromeda. And I listened to this fabulous pirate who insists that we are also not from here. And I'll see if I can put that link in the description. And he explains the same story. Like, we were intercepted by the Draco Queens, who want their money, which actually means their loosh, because that's what they need. And anyone who's going down their galactic highway can get harvested and fed upon. And I do believe that that's what happened. So the Draco Queens, and I go back to my videos about the Viper Queens and this whole story of the Nog and the lineages. This man, like me, his name is Andus Collins. This man, like me, said that it's in the blood types also. So I was trying to find where I marked that page so I could show you. This is so interesting about how the blood types are part of the archaeogenetic study of who we are and where we came from, and the great hunt of the DNA. So he talks also about the gene mutation CCR5 delta 32 that immunizes about 10% of the population against AIDS, because those people are the Rh negative group, which are entirely different people than the Rh positive. And I'm not saying good or bad or the other, but I do understand that the Draco came in because they are harvesters, and the Draco Queens want their loosh. Everyone's got to pay in their super galactic highway. And then here's the whole story. It's amazing. He puts all the lineages and how we crossed over, and right here is Cepheus, again, next to Eridanus. Cepheus is the rock that it was built. And the only thing I can think of is the word Hebrew, which I spoke about a little bit in my most recent live video on Facebook. Hebrew in Old French is something like Ibiru. And I was like, oh my gosh, to cross the river, Eridanus, and be dragged from Andromeda into the Orion arm of this galaxy is crossing a great river. Yes, that's where the Hebrews came from. And then someone sent me an Ashianadine, like old Ashianadine, before she was taken over or turned or whatever you want to call it. And she was talking about the fire codes of the Hebrew language, which was part of 5 different languages that activate our DNA. And our DNA is like a light frequency transmitter. And Hebrew was one of those fire languages. So as I said, I'm going to be studying Hebrew because I've already done 30 years of Sanskrit. And most of my naturopath practice was in Ayurveda and the dosha types and the constitution types of yoga. Okay, so that's what I have been doing along with all my plant medicine and everything that I do. But it's so fascinating. So if you want to get Stars, Stones, and Scholars, this is an excellent hardcover book, and you can still get it, and you'll be able to understand, just like what I've been talking about, the blood wars and everything that's going on with the different blood types, and this guy knows it too. And then if you want to get this little guide of the stars and planets, then, and basically I paid 99 cents for this, in a used bookstore, just get yourself a little pocket guide so that when you go to like the Circle of Miami, which is so fascinating because it's even in the Circle of Miami. So here's the whole story. In the Circle of Miami, they're explaining the whole story, how we came from a water environment. And we've got fish, bird, seal, bird. And then over here, the Miami Circle in the southwest corner, and how it relates to all of this that we understand. In Canada, we have the same thing. So the petroglyphs of Canada tell all of the same story. It's amazing to me. So the whole thing that I've been trying to explain to you about this being a really big year, because the eclipses are coming into this story of Perseus wanting Andromeda, and he wants to, take a hold of this chained woman because Satis, the sea monster, is apparently going to ravage her shores. And I'm just still working on solar returns for March, and I'm like, holy crap. In addition to the eclipses, you cannot believe all of the asteroids that line up for these eclipses that have to do with the water. And I think I'm going to do a separate video to just get all those eclipses down. But I also want you all to use Salacia. And Salacia is number 120347, 120347, because Salacia is the same as Amphitrite, who was the original queen. And today, a very exciting day, is February 15th, where the goddess of the sea is celebrated in many of the cultures around the Gulf. So I put something in the community page today with the different names of this great goddess of the sea, the Great Mother. So she was known as Yamana or Yoruba. Let me just get my whole list over here. Orisha, Santeria, Janana, and Yamanja Lamaja. And she was associated with Saturday on February 15th, which is in fact what we have today. So this incredible celebration of the great goddess mother of the sea. And I'm going to, again, meet with my private group in just a few minutes. But I wanted to get this video out. Claude and I had some very special experiences in the Panhandle. 2 right whales showed up at the end of the pier. And there are only like 700 some right whales even in existence. Like they're so rare. And they were 2 females tail tied, like they were swimming together, these 2 females. And that's on my Facebook page. So you can see those right whales are very rare. And they're dwindling in their numbers because what I understand is the whales and the dolphins, particularly the whales, are the oversouls to many collectives. So they're trying to show us something. And what I heard from them was to remember, like the Pisces, you are this fish and your great cosmic fish in the great cosmic ocean of the void, which is the Great Mother. And you are this fish here to stay tail-tied to your spirit, to your soul. And because of the dwindling number of the whales, I'm taking that as a sign that there are very few ensouled, spirited beings here. And what I saw from the dolphins, and I have a little video on YouTube, just a minute long, of the Delphi, and they were just staying together very carefully. They know that we're coming up to this great confluence. They would not actually enter the Gulf because the day before we left, like that evening, there was an 8.0 magnitude underwater earthquake 137 miles from the Cayman Islands. So the whole Gulf was under tsunami warning. But Claude and I went anyways, of course, because what are we going to do? Because, if there's a tsunami, we're all going. So we had the kayaks in the car and we went and we had the most amazing time. Not only did we kayak the bay, St. Andrews Bay, and around to Shell Island, but then the most amazing thing, we went out on a private boat with Ezzy, our little dog, and she was so interactive with the dolphins, but they were very much like stay together, stay as a group, and they would slap their tails every once in a while saying, be careful, there's something big about to change. And then the 2 whales that came in were so rare. It was like the USGS survey people were there. There were all kinds of red flag warnings on the beach. There was really high waves. We did have a big thunderstorm, but then the next day we went out in the lagoon, actually that afternoon after the thunderstorm. Nobody out there, and Claude and I were just going along. And I'll save some of the really amazing part of this for my private group. But the purity and the joy of the sea creatures is incredible. And we felt something was like with us, and like fish were jumping out of the lagoon. And I was like, what's going on, right? And the next thing we see, the dolphins are up and they're right with us and they're playing and they're coming around. And Ezzy was right on the edge of my kayak, like trying to play with him. She was so excited on the big boat, out near the Shell Island. But boy, when she was in the lagoon, they were right next to us and they were going all around. And there's more to it, but I'll save that for my private sessions. And then we were coming back, and I kept feeling like something was with us, right? And I felt something under my boat, and it was like lifting the front of my boat where Ezzy sits, my little dog. And Ezzy was shaking all over. So I was going to ask Claude, do you guys see anything funny at the front of my little kayak? Like this tiny little kayak, it weighs like 25 pounds, right? And I'm like, something's lifting it up. Is the water lifting it up? And then I decided to go towards a pier just to see if like the dolphins were under there messing it. And then the next thing I know, this head came up out of the water with like full of whiskers. And I was like, oh my gosh, is that an otter? And then it really came up, and it was a manatee in the lagoon with me. It was so incredible. So anyways, I just wanted to give you a short, sweet story of, I just felt like all these things came together, and the Pisces North Node conjunct Neptune right now is like, just really get into the water. Do not be afraid of the water. Do not be afraid of returning to the sea. And I also wanted to give you one little cute book that, I'm always telling you about like these bad books. Don't read this stuff to your children. But this book, The Little House at the Fairy Wood, is so sweet. This was written by Ethel Cook Elliott, and I think it was in the early 1900s when men were writing about Peter Pan and never growing up and being in Never Never Land. She's writing about magic in a mist, and there's been a lot of mists. And then she's also writing about the blue water children and how they go down to the ocean and they meet the blue water ocean, and they're asking the great tree mother, who I think is like the Kaliak. She's a white-haired ancient mother. And she says, oh, where did they go? And she says, they are gypsy folk, and you never know where you will find them next. They are probably miles away by now. And that is exactly how I felt about the dolphins. Like, I didn't know whether they were going to pop up and be like right there with us, and Ezzy was going to play with them. Like, she was going to jump out of the boat. It was incredible. She loved them so much, and they loved her. And I was giggling, and Claude was really happy. It was just an experience of just pure joy. So that's what I want to say about the oceans. And then on the 13th, right, we found out like a kayaker was swallowed by a whale, like this whole Jonah story. And then of course the whale spit him out. But that was like this, again, like this biblical type of like script is playing out right now of a kayaker being swallowed by the whale. And I was like, wow, the whales are trying to tell us something. And I thought about it, and I thought, my gosh, if there was a tsunami, then I want a whale to swallow me, because in the belly of the whale, and you'd actually be able to breathe. Maybe it was like a sign of what this whale was trying to tell the kayaker, like you would be okay in here. And I was like, wow, that's so fascinating. Everything about it was amazing. Now I have my private group, so I'm going to just say it was just so splendid, you all, and keep doing human things. I know that they are very much excited about the digital twin and putting everyone in a smart city and then pretending that you can have a real experience out there. It's like reality TV show, but if you want to stay human, you got to keep activating your human codes by being physical and getting out there and doing stuff. So that's what Claude and I are doing. We hope to go kayaking in a swamp today with all the lotus flowers coming up. So just enjoy your life, folks. There's not many of us left. I mean, that's also what I was hearing from the whales, like stay together, stay close, stay with your spirit. Do not let go of your spirit. These two fishes, these two whales, tail tied. That's what I really heard. And in terms of the digital twinning, like folks, it's already done. If you've already got all of that stuff in your body, they've already got the telemetry centers up in Greenland. SpaceX is going to hive mind everyone. That's why, what's his name? The Musk Elon guy had his little kid on his lap going, oh, now we have SpaceX, so we can do anything we want. And that's because SpaceX has been a long time planned on hundreds of years. They've been planning to hive mind everyone into the synthetic Christ consciousness so they can do anything they want. But you stay human and you stay tail tied to your spirit, your true cosmic self. All right, my dears? I'll get more into the river and crossing the Great River when I get some study on that. All right, bye-bye for now.